Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. Her phone lit the table and she flinched. The glass in her hand hovered, then dropped. "I start Monday," she said, eyes locked elsewhere. "I'm Alex, 34, and my stomach tightened." She flipped the phone face down slowly, like a dare. I raised my glass and touched hers gently. She didn't clink back, jaw tight and restless. "Toast later," she said, thumb already swiping. Another buzz crawled through the wood. I watched her lock the screen again, too late. We walked out into rain and noise. She checked the curb and waved a car down. "We need separate rides," she said, no smile. I laughed once and stopped when she didn't. Her car door slammed before I blinked on me. At home, I waited by the hallway mirror. Her steps landed fast and purposeful. She tossed her heels near the mat. "Midnight run clears my head," she said, tying laces. I reached for her wrist and missed, on purpose. "Run with me," I tried, grabbing my jacket. "Not tonight," she said, already at the door. AirPods in, eyes forward, no backward glance. The lock clicked and the stairwell swallowed her. I stood with a knot forming tighter and tighter. I paced the kitchen and listened for her key. 40 minutes stretched and bent around me. 50 brought a message with no greeting. "Need an early night, big day ahead." I stared at the door like it might answer. Morning arrived with her alarm roaring. She was dressed before the sun thought about it. "Car S downstairs," she said, smoothing a sleeve. No kiss, no coffee, just a nod. The elevator took her away fast, too fast. By noon, I got a photo from a coworker. Her team cheered in a crowded conference room. She wasn't looking at the camera at all. Her gaze landed just past the frame. Someone else held her attention outside the shot. That night she came back crackling with energy. She opened the fridge and closed it again. "Dinner with leadership," she said, toes tapping. "Dress nicer next time," she added, eyes scanning me. I felt the ground tilt a few degrees, enough. Saturday arrived and she canceled lunch mid-step. "Mock board," she said, sliding into the study. The door locked with a quiet clack. Through the wood I heard a low chuckle. She whispered something softer, then cleared her throat. I hovered by the hall and waited. She emerged glowing and brisk, phone upside down. A notification banner flashed before it died. One word stuck in my head like a splinter. Sweet pulsed behind my eyes, heavy and sharp. That night she showered and started humming. Steam rolled out and fogged the mirror. Her blazer lay across the chair, pocket sagging. I lifted the edge and felt plastic ridges. A keycard stared back at me, floor 19. I slipped the card into my back pocket and paced. Her towel rustled in the bathroom and the fan droned. I opened the front door and stepped into the hall. Keys, wallet, card all in place, move now. I took the stairs 2 at a time, hard up. The rideshare dropped me near the tower entrance. I kept my head down and crossed the lobby fast. Elevator doors closed and my reflection stared back. 19 lit with a soft chime and I swallowed. The card burned against my hip, heavier with each floor. The corridor stretched in a quiet line. I passed housekeeping and nodded without slowing. Numbers climbed until the right one stopped me cold. I pressed the plastic to the reader and waited. A red blink, then another, then nothing at all. I tried again and heard footsteps turning the corner. A bellhop pushed a cart and eyed my hands. "Wrong side," he murmured, tapping the opposite slot. I switched sides and heard the lock release. My pulse beat inside my throat, too loud. I opened 6 inches and froze. Menswear hung on a chair and shoes pointed inward. Ice clinked and a laugh cut through the air. I shut it quietly and stepped back fast. A second laugh answered, closer and warm. I backed into a service alcove and waited. Knuckles rapped twice behind me from another door. Housekeeping called out and nobody responded. I slid out and rode the elevator down. The walls felt closer with every floor tighter. Outside, I dialed her number and listened. She picked up on the third ring with clipped breath. "Working late," she said, street noise filling the gaps. I stared at the awning of the hotel and swallowed. "Grab groceries," I said, keeping my voice flat. I returned home and set 2 plates out. She walked in later and glanced at the table. "Appetite's gone," she muttered, tossing her shoes aside. "Rough prep," I said, watching her blink slow. Her gaze slid over me and then away. I reached for her phone and she blocked me. "Work messages," she said, fingers tightening around the screen. "Then let me hold it while you eat." She breathed out, set it down, and nudged it closer. Her knee bounced under the table, steady and fast. Notifications appeared with initials I didn't recognize. A name repeated, short and formal, every few minutes. Another banner flashed with a meeting invite again. Subject line read "one-on-one," followed by a room. She forked a bite and chewed without tasting. "Who is he?" I asked, tapping the screen lightly. Her fork hovered and then hit the plate. "A sponsor," she said, wiping her mouth slowly. "Then sponsor this dinner," I said, meeting her stare. We sat like chess pieces, silent and keyed up. Her jaw worked and then she stood. "I need to deliver a deck before midnight." I reached for my jacket and blocked the hallway. "I'll ride with you," I said, holding my ground. She blinked hard, then nodded once. We drove without music and watched the road. She scrolled messages with her phone tilted away. I asked for directions and she pointed short. "Garage level 2, she said, unlocking the pass. She tucked the card into the visor and paused. We parked near the elevator and waited for doors. A man stepped out with a leather folio and grin. He stopped when he saw us and adjusted his tie. "Big night," he said, offering a hand toward me. I kept mine at my side and looked at her. "Boardroom upstairs," she told him, voice turned formal. He nodded once and checked his watch. "We'll polish the pitch and then be done." He glanced at her shoes and smiled like ownership. I felt the heat rise and said nothing yet. Upstairs, the conference room hummed with low conversation. 2 analysts arranged slides on a screen quickly. She walked to the head of the table with purpose. He took the chair beside her without asking permission. I sat at the wall and watched their orbit. They rehearsed answers and ran mock questions briskly. She hit every line with crisp timing and control. He lined in and whispered adjustments near her ear. Her shoulders squared and she delivered the fix flawlessly. Everyone nodded and circled back for one more pass. Break time came and people spilled into the hall. He lingered by the glass and tucked his phone away. I stepped beside him and kept my voice low. "Boundaries," I said, eyes on his hands. He smiled like a coach and kept smiling. She returned with water and stopped between us. Her gaze moved from him to me slowly. "We need a win tomorrow," she said, setting the cup down. "I need respect tonight," I answered without blinking. The air tightened and someone cleared a throat nearby. She pulled me into an empty office and shut the door. "I control this," she said, pressing palms to the desk. "Then show me control," I said, pointing to her phone. She unlocked it and held it open, jaw tense. Their thread sat at the top with pinned stars. I scrolled with care and watched her eyes. Most lines were logistics and timelines only. A few drifted into compliments that crossed a line. "He wrote your electric, then deleted it in shame." Another line read, "Tonight, same room as before." She grabbed the device and locked it quickly. "Focus on the deal," she said, voice almost steady. "Hotel after," I said, stepping back with a plan. She stared at the carpet and didn't answer. The silence stretched and then snapped like wire. We finished the session and headed for elevators. He joked with her and ignored my presence completely. She laughed once, then caught herself mid-breath. I watched her fingers drift toward his sleeve. He shifted away an inch and checked the cameras. In the garage, he offered her a ride home. She hesitated and glanced at me briefly. "I'll take my own car," she said, unlocking ours. He waved and disappeared into the ramp shadows. I opened the passenger door and waited her out. On the drive, she gripped the wheel too tight. "Tomorrow changes everything," she said, eyes on traffic. "It already changed," I answered, staring through the windshield. "We end the hotel meetings tonight," I added, calm. She swallowed and tightened her grip again, breath short. At home, she packed a laptop and charger fast. "Final pass," she said, moving toward the door. I held up the card from my pocket. "After you finish, we visit 19, I said. Her shoulders sagged an inch and then squared harder. "Give me the night," she whispered, gaze fixed low. "Give me the truth," I countered, voice steady now. She nodded once and checked the time. 1 hour, she said, turning the deadbolt behind her. The door closed and the clock started ticking loud. I started the timer and waited by the door. 59 minutes crawled, then hit 0 hard. I grabbed my keys and stepped into the hall. The lock clicked behind me like a challenge. I took the stairs fast, pulse already ahead. Traffic boiled at the curb and I waved down a ride. I gave the address and kept my jaw set. My screen buzzed once with a calendar alert. Her name sat above a private block, no details. I felt the urge to bail and forced it down. I told the driver to drop me 1 block short. I walked the rest and checked the entrance quietly. Security scanned badges and barely glanced up. I followed, a pair of consultants through the gates. Nobody asked who I was supposed to be. Up the escalator, I kept my head lowered. Lobby chatter rose and fell like a warning. I veered left and found the service corridor. Stairs waited open and silent, easy invitation. I started climbing, counting landings under my breath. At the top level, the hallway stretched empty. I reached the door number from memory and paused. A murmur sifted through the gap near the jamb. Glass tapped once, then a hush answered it. I tightened my grip and knocked twice, calm. Footsteps stopped, then moved closer with slow intent. A chain slid and metal scratched against metal. The opening line came smooth and trained. "Housekeeping." I leaned into the peephole and stared it down. "Try again," my voice came out steady and cold. Silence settled on the other side, heavy. Another step approached and the lock disengaged. The door opened a hand's width and held. Her face appeared composed, chin lifted half an inch. "We are done with this room," I kept my stance. A shadow hovered behind her shoulder, quiet and watchful. "Discuss downstairs," the shadow offered with a practiced smile. "Here," I answered, not moving an inch. His eyes flicked toward the corridor like a threat. She inhaled once and opened the door wider. He retreated 2 steps while smoothing his tie. I placed my phone on the table and tapped record. "Lines," I said, pointing between them and then me. Her gaze flickered, then settled with effort. He reached for my phone and I blocked his hand. "Contact legal tomorrow," I said, keeping my tone level. "Tonight we document and shut the door." He looked past me, calculating exits and outcomes. The room held its breath and waited. "Check the chat," she told me, eyes steady now. She unlocked her device and held it open. I scrolled to the newest entry at the top. A draft apology sat there, unsent and raw. He shifted his stance and swallowed something sharp. She pulled up a folder titled Coaching Protocol. Signatures showed both their names with yesterday's timestamp. A clause flagged off-site sessions as prohibited entirely. I screen captured with her nod and saved it. He stared at the document like it betrayed him. Clear the minibar, I said, pushing it aside. No implied celebration in any photo later. He gave a tight smile that never reached his eyes. Optics, he muttered, almost proud despite exposure. I turned the phone and caught that word clean. End it now, I told her, not blinking. She faced him and stripped the smile completely. No further private meetings, she said, hands down. All communication routed through the team channel. His jaw tightened as if it hurt to agree. He reached for his jacket and stopped at the threshold. This affects your advancement, he warned with smooth diction. Then evaluate my work in daylight, she answered without flinching. He held her stare for 2 beats and broke. The door clicked behind him with a soft insult. I exhaled and felt the adrenaline flatten out. She leaned on the table and stared at the floor. Do we file an internal report? I asked quietly. Her shoulders rose and fell once, then again. After the pitch, she murmured, eyes finally lifting. Tonight we set boundaries in writing, I said. I typed a short summary and sent it to us. Time, location, outcomes, and next steps only. No adjectives, no excuses, facts that hold. Her throat worked and she nodded carefully. We walked out together and kept space between us. Elevator doors closed and we faced our reflections. Her fingers found mine and squeezed once, uncertain. I didn't squeeze back, not yet. The car descended and my plan tightened. In the lobby, I turned toward the exit. We meet the team at 7, she said, checking time. Then we go home, no detours, I answered. She searched my face for softness and found stone. Home, she repeated, like testing a fragile bridge. Outside, night pooled around the entrance in restless waves. A taxi pulled up and splashed the curb. She opened the rear door and looked back at me. Stay close tomorrow, she whispered, raw and small. I slid in beside her and kept my eyes forward. Her alarm hit and she was already up. Jacket on, hair tied back quick. Car in 5, she muttered, checking her watch. Team meets first, I said, blocking the door with a look. She held my stare, then nodded once tight. In the garage, a text landed on her screen. Board moved the pitch up an hour. Run through in 10, she breathed, sliding into the seat. I buckled and opened our summary email. We stand on this, I said, tapping the facts. Upstairs, the floor buzzed like a hive. Analysts lined up with printouts and grim faces. He appeared at the end of the hall, smiling clean. Pre-brief, he announced, gesturing toward a side room. She glanced at me and stepped in, cautious. I followed and took a chair by the door. He clicked a remote. ND bullet points marched past. Our narrative starts with leadership vision, he pitched smoothly. Her deck title vanished under his slide swap. She folded her arms and waited, coiled. Your section moves later, he said, placing a marker down. Data belongs in appendix, not front. Her mouth twitched like a pulled thread. Open with results, she countered, razor calm. He blinked and smirked, daring her. I slid the printed agenda across the table. Published yesterday, I said, finger on the order. Her name sat first under outcomes. He stared at it a beat too long. Fine, he murmured, then breathed through his nose. We walked to the main room together. Stakeholders filtered in with clipped hellos. He hovered near the head seat like gravity. She stopped, then took it before he landed. I watched him recalculate with narrowed eyes. The clock hit start and lights dimmed a notch. She opened strong and held the tempo. He hovered an inch behind her shoulder, close. I shifted to the corner and raised my phone. The lens saw posture and space, nothing else. Midway through, he cut in with a hand. Before we proceed, he began, voice polished. She paused and set her clicker down deliberately. Finish the metrics, she told the room, steady. He froze a heartbeat, then withdrew the hand. She wrapped the case and parked the ask. Silence stretched, then the chair cleared his throat. Impressive structure, he said, nodding toward her. Implementation details next week, he added, glancing around. Approval signals fell like dominoes, quick and decisive. Applause hit and dispersed into side chatter. He leaned in and angled his body toward her. Debrief upstairs now, he urged, jaw tight. Team floor, she answered, stripping off the lanyard. His eyes flicked toward me and cooled. Back at the bullpen, she dropped into a chair. Draft the follow-up, she told the analysts, crisp. I opened a browser and typed a short note. Send compliance a heads up, I whispered. She watched my fingers and did not stop me. He arrived with a carefully neutral smile. Quick celebration, he offered, lifting 2 fingers. Whole team, she replied, pointing to the row. We'll toast after emails, I added without heat. He checked his watch and feigned patience. My phone pinged with a new message. Subject line read report acknowledged with a case number. I tucked the screen away and stood. We have a meeting at 3, I said. Her eyebrows lifted, curious and alert. An HR manager appeared at our doorway. 15 minutes, she said, resting a folder against her hip. He went pale and tried to lighten the mood. Routine, he chuckled, wiping an invisible speck. No one returned the laugh, not one person. The interview room sat cold and simple on purpose. She took the chair beside me back straight. He leaned against the wall like he owned it. Walk us through your coaching structure, HR began. He nodded and started with corporate phrases. I placed my phone on the table, recording. Consent to record, I said, eyes on HR. She nodded once and tapped her pen twice. He glanced between us and pasted on calm. Let's keep this constructive, he murmured, brittle. She opened her sent folder and slid it forward. Here are session invites and locations, she said. Here are protocol documents with signatures, I added. HR scanned each page and marked a line. He shifted weight from one foot to the other. HR asked for off-site details without blinking. He fumbled and blamed scheduling overflow. She answered with dates and exact durations. I added the screenshot of the prohibited clause. HR's pen paused on that paragraph, decisive. He tried a last pivot to performance. Results justify flexibility, he offered, chin up. HR didn't look up from her notes. Policy is not flexible, she replied evenly. Silence pressed on all of us hard. The door opened and Legal slipped inside. Interim steps, Legal announced, placing forms down. He scanned the pages and exhaled through teeth. Administrative leave, HR confirmed, voice quiet steel. His jaw worked like he wanted to bite. He turned to her with a practiced ache. You know what this costs, he warned softly. She didn't flinch or look away. I know what I own, she answered, clear. He scooped his things and left without looking back. We stepped into the corridor and the team watched. Murmurs swelled, then flattened as he passed. She steadied herself with one hand on the frame. Status update in 10, she told them, composed. I caught the tremor under the surface and filed it. Back at her desk, she typed a company-wide note. Project next steps, ownership clarified, milestones locked. No mention of him, no drama or color. She hit send and stared at the screen. I listened for fallout and heard nothing yet. Her phone vibrated with an unknown number. She answered and went still for 2 seconds. The chair wants her upstairs for a private follow-up. No entourage, no delay, now. She looked at me like a coin flipping midair. Go, I said, keepin'. My voice even and clear. Hold the line we drew, I added slow. She straightened and fixed a stray strand. Wait outside the door, she murmured, almost pleading. I nodded and watched her walk away into the test. The door opened and she stepped out fast. Her pulse showed in her neck as she gripped my sleeve. Board wants me to stabilize delivery now, she whispered. Also a sworn statement today, she added, eyes hard. The chair signaled me inside with a small motion. Close involvement is noted, he said, hands folded. Keep everything documented and time stamped, he continued. I nodded once and waited for the catch. There will be blowback, he warned with measured calm. Temporary authority for her, restricted access for him. Escort stays nearby until this cools, he added. The word until hung in the air like wire. We left the office and nearly ran into him. A lawyer matched his stride and started smiling. Retaliation claim, the lawyer announced, lifting a folder. Security appeared from nowhere and fell in behind. He leaned toward her and pitched it low. Careers die from misinterpretation, he breathed too close. She didn't blink and lifted her phone slowly. Continue by email, she answered, voice level and cold. HR waved us into another glass room immediately. Interim lead, she said, placing forms on the table. No contact outside team channels, strict time windows. Sign if you accept, decline if you don't. She read line after line, pen unmoving. I watched her shoulders steady, then settle. This locks him out completely, I said, tapping dates. She signed with sharp strokes and exhaled once. We walked the floor and eyes followed openly. One analyst approached and held up a screen. A rooftop selfie showed her and him mid-toast. Caption read legends with a flame emoji. She didn't flinch and raised her voice for everyone. We ship outcomes and handle gossip later, she said. Version control is now frozen, she added crisply. People scattered with purpose and whispered anyway. Compliance pinged us for a vault session immediately. We headed to the archive room with badges ready. An alert flashed that someone downloaded last night. Unknown device, offsite, big scrape in minutes. She punched the intercom and called information security now. Kill every token tied to his profile, she ordered. Notify legal with a pull list, I added quickly. Lock succeeded, a voice replied, distant and flat. Another alert popped before the green check anchored. A service integration still held privileged reach. Shadow access, old automation no one remembered. The door behind us clicked and a tech arrived. The technician opened a panel and routed the feed. We watched sessions drop off like lights in storm. One connection kept returning and switching networks fast. He pointed at it and raised both eyebrows. Manual override, the tech muttered, thumbs flying. Needs executive approval for final cut. She called upstairs and got the chair immediately. Authorized came back crisp and immediate. The persistent session vanished and the list went clean. I leaned back and felt the knot loosen slightly. Her phone buzzed and she stared at the screen. A new number wrote 3 steps ahead, try harder. Save that, I said, taking a screenshot quickly. She forwarded it to HR without a single word. The tech whistled once and pretended he didn't. We walked out and kept to opposite sides. PR intercepted us near the elevators with clipped smiles. Expect questions at street level, the light warned. Short answers only, no color or flair. She nodded and pressed her lips together tight. Downstairs the doors opened and microphones appeared. Are you replacing him? Someone shouted over shoulders. She lifted her chin and spoke into the noise. I'm delivering results while policies are enforced. Hands reached and a voice jabbed from the back. Were you in that hotel last night? It pushed. Her gaze didn't move and neither did mine. We won't discuss private locations, she answered, controlled. A car pulled close and a guard waved us through. We slid inside and shut the outside out. She stared forward and flexed her fingers slowly. Home, she said, not as a question. Halfway there, her screen lit with a calendar invite. Subject line read debrief with chair and audit. She swallowed and sent me the forward immediately. Time set for dawn, no buffer at all. We reached our building and climbed the short steps. An envelope sat under the wiper like a trap. I opened it and scanned the single page. A printed photo showed that hotel door cracked open. On the back, a message ran in block letters. And this and the image stays buried. Refuse and the full set goes wide. She looked at me and didn't look away. I snapped a photo of the threat and pocketed the note. Forward to legal and audit now, I said, voice clipped. She nodded once and sent both with the original. My hands shook, I pressed them flat and breathed. We meet dawn, we bring this hard. Her phone chimed and audit answered within seconds. Preserve the envelope, the investigator wrote, instructions precise. Do not contact the sender directly, the follow-up added. Arrival at 6 with chain forms, the last line read. We stared at the clock like it might jump. We taped the flap and wrote the time across it. I placed it high on the shelf, visible and safe. They want your unlocked device ready, I said, steady. She set it down and placed her palms beside it. I'm done hiding, she whispered, resolve almost painful. Sleep never came, so I made coffee and watched windows. Her screen lit again and a new text arrived. Same number, same clipped tone, same pressure tactics. Drop a response or lose control, now. I captured it and marked the minute, icy calm. Bait or silence, I asked, eyes on her. She touched the envelope and shook her head once. By the book, she answered, firm and focused. We waited each minute like it could explode. At 5:40 we left, hearts in our throats. Security met us at the curb with badges ready. Audit took the envelope and read my timestamp. Good custody, the light said, pen already moving. He swabbed edges and sealed it again. We will handle outreach, he assured, tone clinical. In the conference room, they mirrored both phones. Notifications appeared on the feed, sterile and huge. The unknown number pinged again with a location pin. Parking garage level 1, far corner, 2 hours. Audit paused the scroll and circled the map. Controlled approach, the lead decided, nodding to compliance. Do not meet alone, he added, eyes sharp. Record everything and keep distance, he finished. I asked for clearance to attend within sight. Approved, he said, already texting the chair. Before we moved, her calendar flashed a new invite. Emergency session with the directors and internal counsel. She looked at me, jaw set like iron. We go upstairs first, I said, not asking. She picked up the phone and faced the hallway. The boardroom felt colder than yesterday, tighter and deliberate. They reviewed the case number and the extracted texts. Audit displayed the clause that banned private sessions. Legal summarized the leave order and the timeline. I watched her spine hold, brave and unflinching. Then the chair turned to the pin on screen. Someone intends to trade on private imagery, he stated. We treat this as blackmail, legal answered, crisp. We coordinate with law enforcement before noon, Audit added. I nodded once, a plan locking in place. They offered her a choice without blinking or drama. Step back pending the probe or light under supervision. Her eyes flicked toward the team floor and steadied. Supervision, she said, voice clang like new metal. Results stand with daylight and witnesses. We left that room and went straight to prep. Security briefed us on routes and camera coverage. Audit placed a tracker on a decoy envelope. Inside sat blank paper with the same photo. I tested the weight and handed it back. At the garage entrance, microphones waited again like gnats. PR moved them aside with short practiced lines. We walked past to the far row, hearts thumping. A message popped from the unknown with one word. Alone. Audit texted one instruction on a private thread. Walk past, do not engage, drop nothing. We moved together until a figure stepped from a pillar. A baseball cap shadowed his face and jaw tightness. He raised a phone and kept distance like he trained. Hand it to the trash can, the voice demanded. I kept walking in measured steps with hers. He matched pace, always 10 feet behind us. Audit's cameras watched from 3 angles, silent and relentless. I counted each stride and waited for the cue. A second figure appeared at the ramp with a duffel. He scanned the lane and touched his ear once. My stomach dropped as I recognized the posture. He moved like he owned the floor without permission. The duffel unzipped an inch, enough for threat. Security stepped into the lane as if by mistake. 2 more guards drifted from the elevator without hurry. Audit pinged my phone with a single word. No. We turned and faced both men square. Leave the package, I said, palms out. The cap lifted his phone to record our faces. He pointed to the trash can and made a cutting motion. Do it now, the man barked from the ramp. My lungs burned, I held steady anyway. She took 1 step and stopped dead. Team channel only, she said, voice carrying. The rest goes to council, she added, louder. The ramp man froze like he heard a camera. I saw panic creep up through polished confidence. Audit moved first with a calm wave. Security closed rank and blocked both exits. The cap sprinted left and bounced into a parked SUV. The duffel swung wide as the ramp man hesitated. Guards intercepted before he found a new line. They searched the bag and found a small drone. A transmitter lay beside it with fresh tape. The cap's phone showed drafts to a gossip string. Same phrasing, same cheap threats in tight lines. Audit logged everything while we watched the unravel. The ramp man tried an old play with new words. He painted himself as a messenger, not the author. He threw phrases like misunderstanding and context with force. Security printed out silence by not reacting at all. He stared at me as if I had scripted fate. Police arrived and took custody step by step. Audit handed over the sealed envelope carefully. The officer asked her one question, then another. She answered both with dates and exact minute marks. I added the hotel clip where she set terms. Back upstairs, the team rose when she returned. She lifted a hand and the room settled quickly. We keep delivering, she said, breath even now. No off-grid anything, no exceptions, she added. Heads dipped, keyboards started, work resumed like a heartbeat. HR joined us with a final update at midday. Leave became suspension pending the external review. Access remained cut in badges flagged red. The chair assigned her the project outright with oversight. She swallowed hard and accepted without flair. We reached an empty office and shut the door. She braced both hands on the desk and stared. I want the truth while everything is still loud. She nodded and met my eyes without dodging. Tell me what to do with us. I cannot live with fog anymore, I said calm. Transparency or distance, I added, clear and final. She pulled her phone and opened a typed confession. Every off-site note, every message, every blurred line. She slid it across to me and stood back. I read each entry and felt my chest tighten. No graphic details, only times and risky choices. A pattern formed that ended last night, not sooner. She watched my face and gripped the chair hard. Consequences land where they land, she said, steady. Here is my condition, I answered after a beat. Counseling immediately and separate addresses for now. Share devices until the inquiry closes completely, I continued. 0 private meetings with anyone who manages you. Her mouth trembled once, then resolved into something fierce. Agreed, she whispered, voice low but unwavering. I moved to a short lace near the office. I transfer teams after the review, she added slowly. She reached for my hand and stopped halfway. I let the space hold and did not close it. Audit pinged again with a terse summary. Evidence consistent with coercion for publicity leverage. Anonymous collaborator connected to suspended leadership contact. Law enforcement taking possession of digital artifacts today. We looked at each other and didn't celebrate yet. PR requested a single controlled statement late afternoon. Focus on process, the lead advised, eyes on us. No names, no color, strict facts, she reminded. We recorded one line and ended it there. The company posted and closed comments immediately. Evening rolled in as the building quieted to whispers. She packed a bag and zipped it with care. We rode the elevator together without touching at all. At the curb, a rideshare waited with engine idling. She turned to me like she needed air. Do you believe I can rebuild? She asked, raw. I believe you can choose to rebuild, I answered. Belief follows choices and consistency, I added, slow. She nodded and stepped back toward the car. I kept my hands at my sides and watched. The driver pulled away and I stood alone. My phone buzzed with 3 new messages at once. Audit confirmed the arrest of the CAP collaborator. Legal confirmed external oversight for the review window. HR confirmed her acting role with a fixed term. I walked home and opened the door quietly. The hallway looked the same but felt foreign. I placed my copy of the keycard on the shelf. I wrote a date on a piece of tape. Day 1. Before sleep, I drafted 2 lists side by side. One held boundaries I will not move again. The other held steps we take if trust grows. I sent both to her with a single line. Earn it or end it, no middle ground. My screen lit one last time before I lay down. Her reply came fast and without decoration. First session scheduled, lease signed, devices mirrored. I stared at the ceiling and let breath return. Tomorrow arrives either way, and I will be ready.